Hello, my yarny friends. I'm Sara Sach, and welcome back to my crochet channel. Today is our Scrap Happy of the Month pattern, and what we have here is a Scrap Happy lawn chair or summer blanket. It works great on a lawn chair. We're going to add ties at the top so that you can tie it in place and it won't slide off. It's also perfect for just rolling up, taking to the park for something to sit on a bench or on the grass. It's perfect in the sand because you can just pick it up and shake it off. It's great to take along to the pool or beach to put on those lawn chairs. Now, I originally made this for me because I have two really nice lawn chairs on my porch, and they are made of like vinyl strapping. And in the summertime when it's really hot, they're uncomfortable to sit on. They get sticky. And I thought, what a perfect idea for our Scrap Happy project in the summer to make one for my lawn chair. And it fits perfectly, and I love how it looks on there. It measures about 20 inches across. This one measures about 60 inches long because I want it to come down the back and then on the seat. But you can add or subtract rows as you want. There's not a multiple for this. Just do as many chains as you want, and then just make sure that you go in 7, start your loop, and then you stitch all the way across until you have 7 left, and then you can start your loop to make it wider on the side. To make it longer, you just do as many of those 2-row repeats as needed. Make it shorter or longer as needed for whatever you're going to make. I wanted to make it really long. That way, if I wanted to throw it in the car and take it to the park with the dogs, I could. But basically, I made this for my lawn chairs. Now, you can find the pattern with pictures on my blog. And as always, I'll put that blog link down in the notes underneath the video. To make your lawn chair blanket the size of mine, you're going to need about 20 ounces of a medium weight number 4 yarn. Now, I chose to make mine out of acrylic. That way it doesn't get heavy if the moisture is absorbed, and I can just toss it in the wash and wash it anytime that I want to. You can also use cotton for your project. Now, don't mix your cotton and your acrylic because they don't wash up the same. The cotton shrinks a little more than the acrylic, and it'll get a little bit awkward in your stitches when you try to wash and dry it. All right? And we're also going to be using 2 strands held together for the entire project. And I know I've talked about these silly balls or crazy balls that I've made in the past. And what I do is, as I have leftover yarns, I put them together and wind them up with 2 strands. You don't have to do it this way. You can use whatever scraps that you have. Just make sure that you're holding 2 strands together. And you can see how pretty that turns out with all the different colors. And I didn't even try to put colors together on this one. I just grabbed what I had and went for it. And I just really love how all the colors worked. I've even got some sparkle yarns in here. Just different shades put together. And I love it. Now you can purposely put your yarns together so that they're all the same color, or do this in an ombre or variegated. Whatever yarns that you have on hand will work as long as they're a medium weight number 4 yarn. We're going to be stitching with our J-hook today, and I went with the J-hook. It's a 6 millimeter because I wanted the stitches to be a little bit more snug so that it doesn't get that hotness from the vinyl of the chair to come through and burn your legs or even make you sticky and uncomfortable. So we're using that J-hook 6 millimeter. You're going to need a needle just for weaving in ends, and then of course a pair of scissors. So I've got my 2 strands here held together, and as we work, if you'll just pull it forward like this, it'll keep those 2 strands together. We don't want them to be droopy or loopy. We want them to stay together snugly. All right? So we're just going to make our slip knot. There we go. And we're going to loosely chain 48 chains. And we want this to be loose because we're going to be stitching in that first row, of course, and we don't want the end of our blanket to be bunched up. So I've stitched my 48 chains just a little bit loose. And again, if you want this longer than 20 inches across, just chain as many chains as you would like for the width that you need. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to stitch a double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to stitch 1 double crochet in each of those chains, working all the way across our row. One double crochet in each of the chains, working all the way across our row. I have stitched a double crochet in each of those chains, and now I'm going to chain 3. You're going to have 46 double crochets because we began in the 4th chain from the hook, and this chain 3 counts as our first double crochet. And this chain 3 counts as our first double crochet on this row. So now we're going to turn our work over and we're going to stitch 1 double crochet in the next 6. Three. Make sure I don't have any bumps or loops in my yarn. We don't want anything drooping. 1, and then we were going to stitch 6 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So that's going to give us 7 double crochets at the beginning of our row. Let me get that loop out of there. Oops, we don't want a knot. There we go. So our chain 3 counted as our first, and we stitched 6 more, so we have 7 double crochets. The chain 3 at the beginning of every row will count as a stitch. When we're doing our single crochet rows, we'll only chain 1, and that will not count as a stitch, but we'll talk more about that when we get there. All right, now we're going to chain 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. All right, we're going to slip stitch in the top of that double crochet, and I like to go through both those loops. I think it makes it a little more secure. So we're going to slip stitch, and now we'll just go to this next stitch and stitch a double crochet in each across. And I don't know if you've added chains to yours to make it wider, but you want to make sure that you double crochet in each of the double crochets across until you reach those last 7 stitches. All right, now for us, we have 7. We're going to stitch 1 in each of the next 32, and that will give us 7 at the end. All right, let me work out that knot there. So I'm just going to stitch a double crochet in each of the double crochets across until I reach that last 7 stitches. There we go. And see how that loop is sticking up? That's exactly what we want it to do. So I have stitched a double crochet in each of those double crochets across until I only have 7 stitches left. We're going to chain 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We're going to slip stitch in the top of that previous double crochet that we just stitched, and then we'll double crochet in those last 7 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. This time we're going to chain 1. All right, so we have 7 double crochets, our chain 9 loop, then we stitched all the way across in the center, and then we have 9 chain loop and 7 double crochets. For row 2. Now for row 3, we only chained 1. We're going to turn our work and we're going to single crochet in that first stitch. So we'll single crochet in those 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to push that loop to the front and single crochet in that stitch. 7. I kind of move it away with my finger out of the way just in case I don't want to stitch in the wrong stitch. All right, so now we want to stitch in that first single crochet after that loop, and then we'll single crochet in each of these stitches across. When we're doing the single crochet row like this, we're doing the back of our work, and so we want to push those loops to the front. All right, so now we're just going to stitch a single crochet in each of the double crochets, working across till we reach that second 9 chain loop. I have stitched a single crochet in each of those double crochets across till I reach the next loop. I want to make sure I push that loop to the front. We stitch in that double crochet, and that loop's pushed to the front because we want to find that double crochet here because that's our 7th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, and this is the back of our work. Our loops are pushed to the front because we're going to be looping those up the front of our work. All right, now because our next row is going to be a double crochet, we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. All right, now we'll turn it to the front and see, here's our loops on the front of our work. So this is the front of our work, and this is the back of our work. We've chained 3, and we're back on the front of our work where our loops are. Our chain 3 counts as our first, so we'll stitch 1 double crochet in the next 6. 1, 2. I've got a knot there. I'm going to go ahead and just leave it just for the film's sake, but I would take that out and do a Russian join. If you don't want to, you can stitch over those strands and then come back in and weave those in later. All right. So here's my chain 3 that counts as 1. Then I'm doing 6 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that gives me 7 double crochets because again our chain 3 counts as our first, and then we stitched 6 more. I'm going to chain 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm going to slip stitch in the top of that last double crochet. There we go. And then double crochet across. Until again I reach the point where I only have 7 double crochet stitches left. But before we go any farther, what I like to do is as I go, I like to take the loop from above and go ahead and pull it through. Okay, and I do this every row. For me, it's just easier. You can wait till the end when we attach the last row to loop your loops, but I like to just go ahead and do it. It's up to you. All right, so I'm just going to stitch across. And so again, we did those 7, then we did a chain 9, then we stitched across till we reached our last stitch where we have 7 left. And again, we're going to chain 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We're going to slip stitch in the top of that last double crochet, and then double crochet in those last 7. 1, oops, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And now, since our next row is going to be a single crochet row, we're only going to chain 1. And then I'll go ahead and take that loop and put it through the previous loop. All right, and that is the way that it should look after row 4. Here's our 2 loops, our 7 double crochets, then we double crocheted across the center and our 2 loops. And so this is how your blanket should look after your first 4 rows. You can see we're beginning to make our loops that we're connecting together. Makes a nice, fun sort of mock cable up the sides. And each row is going to have those 7 double crochets, our chain 9 loop, all our double crochets in between, our chain 9 loop, and then 7 double crochets. Then we'll turn it over and do our single crochet row. So we chained 1, we're going to turn our work and do that single crochet row. Now remember, our chain 1 does not count as a stitch, so we go right in that first stitch. Make sure you're real careful here and get in those double crochets behind that chain 9 loop. And then we'll just go right across the center here. Looks like I have another knot to deal with. I'm going to go ahead and just stitch over that since that's a demo, since this is a demo. All right, and then when you have those tails, you can just stitch over them and then come back in with your needle and weave those in. That'll give you a nice, secure color change. All right, so I'm just going to single crochet across this center section and then single crochet around that chain 9 loop. But again, this is how the back looks, pushing those loops to the front. I have completed that row of single crochets, which was row 5, chain 3 and turn. And now we're going to do the same thing we've been doing. Our chain 3 counts as our first, so we'll start in the second single crochet and stitch 6 more double crochets. All right, here's my 7th one, because again, our chain 3 counted as our first and we stitched 6 more, chain 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, slip stitch in the top of that double crochet. There we go. And then double crochet in each of the stitches, working across the center of our blanket. All right, I always stop after a couple of stitches and then I go ahead and take that loop and put it through. And you can already see how pretty that is. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and stitch across and do the same thing on this one, and then end with those 7 double crochets. So this is how your lawn chair blanket should look after your 6th row. We have our 7 double crochets, our chain 9 loop, then our double crochets across, our chain 9 loop, and then our last 7 double crochets. All right, and so what you're going to do to complete your blanket is you're going to continue to repeat row 5, which is our single crochet row, and row 6, which is our double crochet row with our 2 chain 9 loops to form those mock cables. You're going to continue to repeat those 2 rows, alternating every other row for 116 more rows. And so what you're going to do is keep stitching until it's the length that you need for your blanket. If you're making it the size of mine, you're going to repeat those 2 rows, row 5 and row 6, for 116 more rows, alternating every other row. And you want to end, if you're adding more rows, you want to end on a single crochet row. So here is my actual lawn chair blanket. I've stitched as many rows as I need for what I'm wanting it to do. And now we need to finish off. Now I'm going to roll this up because I don't want it to fall onto the floor. There we go. All right, now this last row, we've got our last row of single crochet. You need to make sure when you've made it, as long as you need it, that you end on a single crochet row. On this last row, we're going to be making the ties, and we're also going to be attaching the loops so they don't come undone. And you can see as I worked, I looped it up, so I don't have to do it at the end. But if you waited, just go ahead and loop your loops up before you finish off. So what we're going to do first is we're going to chain 20 chains. 4, 5, oops. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. That's a nice size tie. If you want it longer, you can chain more. We're going to go in the second chain from the hook and just single crochet back down our chain to where we started. And this is going to give us a nice sturdy tie. So I have completed that second tie, so now I have 2 ties to attach it to my lawn chair. We're in this first single crochet, so we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and now we're going to double crochet over to where that chain 9 loop is. All right, so I'm going to push that forward just a little. We're going to go in that 7th double crochet and we're going to start it. But we're going to put that loop over our hook and then grab that and pull it through to finish our double crochet. And we're going to do the same thing in the next stitch. We're going to go through that double crochet, through that loop. And that's going to keep that attached, okay? So then we'll just go across, stitching our double crochets all the way across, and do the same thing when we get to that next chain 9 loop. So I stitched all the way across, stitched in my chain 9 loop, and then finished double crocheting across. And now I'm going to repeat what I did here in this corner. So I'll go ahead and chain 20, single crochet back down, chain 20, and single crochet back down, exactly like we did for these 2 ties. I completed those last 2 ties. I'm going to cut my yarn. I slip stitched in that last stitch. So I'm tying off, and I'm going to weave in my end. Now, you may have a lot of ends to weave in on the back, so you want to get that all tidied up, and that's exactly what I'm going to do, is tidy up the back of mine as well as tidy up this corner. I did not add any trim or anything special to the sides. I just left it as is. You certainly can if you want to. I just didn't feel it was necessary. And so now my lawn chair blanket has the 2 ties on it, on the 2 corners, and it's all ready to go on my lawn chair. So I think that's what I'm going to go do. I'm going to go put it on my lawn chair, see how it fits, maybe take some crochet and sit and crochet.